Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Movement Therapy Podcast. We are joined here by two very special guests, my current clients actually in the clinic. So Cayley and Maddy, welcome. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. Last week we talked about how to start running, and I know two of you have been working on running programs with me specifically as well. So we're going to get into that a bit later, but if you are questioning how to start running or your running technique, go back to the last couple of episodes in the running series, and that will explain how you get stuck into running. But first of all, let me introduce my guests. So Cayley, we've known each other for a while, good mates, and of course current client for a couple of different things. And then Maddy, I've treated you for, I don't even know how long.
So many years.
It was probably, I started 2018, something like that.
It was 2019.
Yeah. So that was for your back.
Yeah.
And then we'll go over this a little bit more in depth into it. But essentially, Maddy is the mystery person from our episode 2 or 3 on the chronic back pain, where Maddy never learned to crawl.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that, and this is the stress fracture as well that we're dealing with too.
I'm just giving you so much content.
It's great content, which is why you're here. So thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Okay, let's start with you, Cayley. Running background. Where'd you start running? What was the sort of the history of your running as a young adult?
I would say when I was younger, sort of primary school, I was into athletics and played a lot of sport growing up.
Yep.
Through sort of teenage years and high school, I really enjoyed cross country. One of those who did enjoy it and didn't try and
get out of it.
And then I guess through school, it was mainly just sort of 5-10K running.
Yep.
Nothing really more than that ever, but really loved it, and just kind of had to stop that in uni.
Just because of schedule and
no, just some health stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into.
We will get into that, absolutely. And did the athletics, did it start from sprinting background, or was it more?
It was more distance, so more like
stuff.
400, 800.
Yep.
Was probably the main distance, and then sort of 1.5.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you remember what your fastest 1K
I don't.
was?
No, I don't recall.
I love telling people that. Mads, we'll get into your parkrun PBs soon.
Oh, yeah. My good old
Where'd your
parkrun.
running background start? Because you started CrossFit, and this is where I met you.
This is where our journey started. So I was the complete opposite of Cayley. I was the one that would hide and try and get out of athletics and track.
You would have been so good at
it. It started probably mid last year. I feel like I've tried a few different sports and nothing's really stuck for me.
Yep.
And funnily enough, the thing I hated the most in high school has stuck the longest as an adult.
It's so funny, you just come full circle. So last week we talked about people, like why people run, and a lot of the time, I remember asking you this many times, is why, and we'll get to that in a sec, but the important part of going, like, why do you want to run? What is the point of that? Not everyone has to run. It's not a rule. So that's what we talked about last week with sort of your motivator and what running can be used for. But before we get into sort of specific programs, Cayley, what were some medical reasons actually stopped you? Because you really enjoyed running.
Yep.
And that was the difference, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I hated it because I was terrible at it. But what was the medical issues that stopped you from running?
I would say about 10 years ago or so, I was just quite unwell and ended up, after a number of tests and doctors and things, was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is basically an autoimmune condition affecting the thyroid gland. So essentially that, I guess, there's an overproduction of thyroid hormones, which normally control like heart rate, body temperature, metabolism. So all of those processes really like speed up.
Yeah.
And as a result, I was sort of faced with a really high heart rate, even at rest, but particularly on any form of exertion, not even like exercise as such, but like walking up a flight of stairs was bothersome.
Enough. Yeah. And was it a medical recommendation that you didn't run, or just was it a don't elevate your heart rate above a certain number?
It was don't elevate your heart rate, which basically meant don't run.
Do anything.
Yeah. Don't
or walk upstairs.
I had a Holter monitor on, and I went to work and walked upstairs, and they were like, "What were you doing at this time?" And I was like, "I was at work."
What did it get up to?
It was like 170 something, just walking upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the main sort of limitation for me, was like heart rate restrictions.
Yep. So what was the exercise then that you replaced it with? Was there anything that came into its spot?
I was always sort of playing netball and things, but I used to play centre, which is a run around position, lots of running, and I kind of just self-taught to play goal shooter. So eventually, could come back, but wasn't running as much. So still was involved in running, but mainly I just started like walking a lot more and was just a bit limited.
So that really changed because you really enjoyed running. That must have had a pretty heavy impact on mental health and that sort of stuff as well. Is obviously what we use running for too. It
was pretty frustrating, like having to adjust to those things when there wasn't a real timeline of how long that would be in place for. It was quite frustrating.
And then that was the only medical advice you got, was just don't get your heart rate up. Which is not very helpful. What was your resting heart rate then?
Like 110.
Wow.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Overnight it was probably like high 90s at times.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Is that current?
No.
Okay.
No.
What are you down to
now? It drops to like 56 or so.
Great.
It's like significantly better than it was then. Yeah.
But that's under medication as well?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
But I took medication for 18 months and then weaned off that, and then it has sort of just stayed okay.
Cool.
So
yeah. Play the symptom card.
Yeah.
Love that. Cool. So, Mads, we were talking, I remember, to you about the medical reasons as well. We tried a few things with your running, and then you got bored and decided to do heaps and get a stress fracture in your foot. It's funny, last week we talked about accumulative load and sort of the build up of load. I think you fell into that problem. Was you knew you could run 5Ks, and so you just kept doing it, and that was your distance, was why can't I run 5Ks? I was trying to get you to run slowly, but essentially you needed to run like 9-minute Ks potentially to get your heart rate down.
Yeah, so I tested it a few weeks ago. I did a 5K super easy pace, and it took me nearly 50 minutes to run 5 kilometers.
And that's at like your true zone 2?
Not even, it was below 160.
Wow.
And I was having a conversation through that whole run.
Yeah, but on the numbers on the Garmin, you couldn't get it down to zone 2.
No.
Yeah. We will do, now you don't have anything diagnosed for heart, despite Maddy being a nurse and having every theory under the sun. Knowledge is not power in this thing, unfortunately.
Definitely a hindrance.
and obviously Cayley being a cardiorespiratory physician. God, you guys are in the worst fields. But this is where it's so tricky, because you're playing around with programs that have already been developed online. I know, Cayley, you've done a couple of you did the Couch to 5K, did you? Or 3K?
Like 0 to 3K.
0 to 3. Did you do any formalised programs?
I used a bit of Runner.
Yep.
The app.
Yep. And then did you use the Garmin one as well?
No, not
just
really.
The Runner. Okay. So just going back and forth between different programs, and then the frustration of not being able to do this, and then me coming along saying, just stay in your zone 2, mate, you'll be fine. Doesn't always work. So I completely sympathise with that. And I will kind of try to explain why that potentially isn't working, and when we get into the programs, this is going to be interesting. The stress fracture, I think, is an interesting one for you, Mads. The heart rate wasn't being able to be controlled. The energy availability potentially wasn't there as well. Fatigue was setting in. Now, at that time, you were a shift worker in ED, so 12-hour shifts. Extremely busy some nights, not as busy other nights. Like, you were all over the place.
All over the shop,
Wasn't sleeping very well.
No.
The diet was pretty good though.
Diet was okay.
Other lifestyle factors were fine, but they're pretty massive ones that we couldn't really compete with. So currently, changed jobs.
Oh my gosh.
Which is nice.
I'm 8 to 4:30. I'm on the other side of shift work.
Love that.
Loving life.
I don't want to recommend people to get out of their shift work, but I'd recommend to get out of their shift work without saying it. It does mess around a few other things. It's possible to do it, but you've got to be really conscious about how we do it. Okay, goals. So this is coming back to the motivation and why we're actually doing it. Cayley, what's the goal for your running? What's the main motivator for you?
I think I just really enjoy it. I know that I've done it before and loved it, and I have just had a lot of frustration and would love to get back to it.
Great.
And I just, for my mental health, it really helps with that. If I feel stressed,
Yep.
like it's just such an outlet for me. And I always just feel like a sense of achievement when I finish a run,
Yep.
even if it's really slow.
Yep.
It's fun. But
Perfect. So it's
just,
not speed, distance, pace for you,
No.
or event, or your sport. It's just enjoyment,
Yep.
which is such a good reason. And this is why I wanted to bring you on, is because you don't have the goal of, I want to do a triathlon, I want to start new sports, I just want to get into it. Not that that's bad, but but I want to be able to showcase that, average people who have normal full-time jobs and medical conditions can run for a purpose, and the purpose is just to have fun and just enjoy it, which is totally fine as well. Mads, goal, where are you at?
I initially last year, about November last year, my family and friends were training for a half marathon, and I thought, I reckon I could give that a go.
Yep.
So trained up, and then
what happened?
6 days before I was supposed to run the half marathon, I was COVID positive, and I still ran the half marathon, and it was an awful decision. Don't do as I say, not as I do.
Did anyone tell you not to do that? I can't remember if anyone specifically told you that probably wasn't a good idea.
Someone specifically in this room.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Kaylee, did you tell Maddie not to?
Me.
No, it wasn't. No, it must have been someone else. Anyway, that's fine. You learn by doing.
Yeah.
So, yours is a vendetta against the half marathon.
It is a vendetta against the half marathon.
Wonderful. Have you got one in mind?
I'm going to do the Shell Harbour half in April.
Great.
And my one goal going in, not have COVID. Not have COVID and beat my COVID time, which was a very long time, but I finished it. It doesn't matter. It was just shy of 3 hours.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Was the van coming behind you?
Yeah.
Taking the cones off the road.
10K has caught up with me. And then the elite 10K has overtook me, and I was still chugging along at half.
Don't do a half marathon when you have COVID, people, please.
Awful idea.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Not worth it.
No.
Do the next one.
Learn by doing. I love the goal. I think time frame wise, what are we now? November, December, January, February, March, April. So 5-ish months.
Yeah.
Good time frame to start training. Now you're on the back of a stress fracture.
I am.
On your foot. When did we start playing around with that? Was that earlier this year?
My stress fracture was in April.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that took a while.
It took, probably 8 weeks.
There is a reason that
I wonder why.
you're a slow healer, are susceptible to getting ill.
Yeah.
So there's a few little things that are actually, not diagnosed, but sort of lead into a couple of different things that we're managing in terms of heart rate spiking and different potential pathologies in there as well.
Yeah. So,
this is the struggle, I think, with you being a young, fit, healthy person.
Yeah.
That it's just frustrating. It's like, why can't I do this? Same with UK. Like, it's a frustrating thing that you start, you fail, and then eventually you give up. And then you start something else. Or you just don't. And then that's when the lack of motivation comes in and that sort of thing. So, other training, girls, what are we doing? Kay, I know you've got some gym and netball and things you're doing at the moment.
Yep, so I try to get to the gym twice a week.
Cool. Is that PT, classes, strength?
Yeah, one class with an EP. It's a lot of like functional strength work. And then I play netball once a week.
Cool.
And then just walking and some hikes and things on the side.
Yep, excellent. Mads, what are you doing?
I'm almost solely doing the program.
Yeah, which we will talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am also playing touch on Friday nights.
Yep.
It's just a social comp.
Yep. So no training or anything?
No.
Excellent. And both working full time? Well, you're not working full time. 4 days.
I'm 4 days
Mads,
as well.
4 days as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Let's get into some of the program stuff. So we've talked about sort of in our first episode of the running technique. Kay, our first step with you was sort of addressing some of these issues. So we went for a run. It was annoying because I was just yelling at you on the path, telling you to pull your head back. What were the main things we were focusing on there? It was head and arms.
Yeah, my left arm decided to I think I'm so used to checking my heart rate on my watch for so many years that like Eth was like, I didn't have my watch. Oh no, I did, but I just kept sort of flinging my arm around. And you were like, what is that left arm doing? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think the next run I did, I was like, oh, that's why. Like I'm so used to looking down at it to check it's like in its limit.
It is a really interesting point because we talk about heart rate a lot, but we don't want you to be obsessively looking at your watch and finding your heart rate. It's bad because then you're not swinging your arm and getting a counterbalance. So we addressed a few of those things. Plus, I think you were crossing your midline with that left arm as well. And it just put you off balance a little bit. So the efficiency card was being drawn there.
And then just head alignment.
So you weren't forward necessarily as to the side a little bit. But potentially, again, the same thing where you might be just training yourself to look at your watch all the time.
I felt straight.
Yeah, of course. So your brain is telling you straight. That's the worst thing because then you don't know. And this is what it is beneficial having a second pair of eyes on you, whether they know anything about running or not. Generally, you know if the running's inefficient. You know, you go for a run and then you sort of look at people going for a run. Guilty, I do this all the time, but it is really interesting to go, are you comfortable running like that? Because that looks awful. And chances are they're not going to be very efficient, but the brain's going, this is fine. And then eventually they will lead to something like a hip flexor strain or, you know, other injuries or pains or stresses or anything like that. We haven't looked at your specific technique, have we?
Not my technique, no.
Cadence-wise, though, have we played with that?
Yes.
For you, that was our main thing.
Yeah, my cadence has gotten better since I think the last time we looked at it.
Do you know what it's sort of sitting at now?
It's averaging 160, 170 at the moment.
Yeah, cool. So I know when we started, it was low 150s.
Yeah, 140 even.
Yeah, late 140s. So that's a massive improvement.
Yeah.
So really good. And again, back to our first episode, there's no number, that cadence we need to hit specifically. It's just a matter of getting it a little bit quicker than last time and then a little bit quicker again to find that sweet spot for you. Which, depending on your leg length, that's probably, where you found it. So I'm happy with that as a 160. What's your cadence sitting at?
Like
roughly
165.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. So again, depending on leg height, length, that's going to change what you're comfortably sitting at. So, you know, if you look at the marathon runners and they're running at 180, 185, you're like, no one can do that.
It's not with these little
demoralizing. You'll be like, can't do legs. Okay, what are we tracking ourselves with? So watches, rings, what have we got? What are we using?
I've got an Oura ring and then the Garmin Forerunner.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've got a Garmin Forerunner. I think 945.
I think you got the 9, some 9 series.
Yeah.
And yours is a
255.
255. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Both fairly new watches as well. So we should get pretty accurate heart rate data from it. Chest strap?
Yes.
You got a chest strap. Excellent. And you do wear the Oura ring when you run, don't you?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And they are pretty similar.
Yep. Excellent. Yeah. Now, do you wear your watch when you sleep, Mads?
No.
Cool. Okay. So HRV, which we've talked about, Kay, with you, and we will have another episode going into all the intricacies of heart rate variability, but it's a good one to track, especially for you with some current illnesses going on, or an underlying illness, that we can actually track how well you're recovering and how well you sleep, and how well your body is reacting to the load, and that's going to be evident in your HRV reaction. So this is going to be exciting. And the next one is the shoes, the footwear. So I'm looking at you, Mads.
I don't know what they're called.
I think I got you New Balance 880s.
Yes.
The version 14s.
Yes. Version 14, that's ringing a bell.
The nice white light, they're super fun colours.
Yeah,
cool. No, they're really comfortable.
They're really, really good.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep. And Cayley, we've struggled with footwear for you. You've got quite a unique foot.
I do.
And normally we're trying to find shoes and struggle with the width of shoes, but your foot is super narrow.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite problem. Yeah. And you've been in hundreds of different shoes and have really never found one that sort of worked. So tell me what you were running in before we sort of were chatting around this.
I was running in like just sort of a standard Brooks running shoe that was quite like built up and like...
I think were they the Adrenalines or...
they were actually.
Cool.
Yep. And then since switched to the Ultras.
Yep.
And really love those.
Yep.
And sort of just do a lot of walking and started running in those, and then recently switched to Pumas, but I don't remember which one.
No, that's fine. This is an interesting progression because we go from quite a rigid, supportive brook to then a barefoot style, still foam, but barefoot style Ultra. For those who don't know, the Ultra, it's a barefoot style minimalistic shoe with a foam padding, and there's different types. They've got carbons and things as well in them, but you just had a basic pattern shoe, and then now we're into the Pumas, and they do have a carbon plate, don't you? Now this is from recommendations from actually Tim, who we mentioned on the podcast a few episodes ago. So he recommended carbon shoes for Kay. You've had problems with your plantar fascia and your Achilles before, haven't you? So the theory was that we needed to offload the tissue in the bottom of the foot and the back of the leg, and the carbon plate actually works to reduce that force through there.
Fit very well.
And they're actually super comfortable. So this is the other thing, was they're narrow.
Yeah.
Which is something I didn't even know they existed until Tim was like, oh, yeah, try these and play with them. So again, goes back to our advice on footwear is make sure it's comfortable first. It doesn't have to be a New Balance 880, which is just what I run in. But it has to be comfortable. So that's got to be number one. So they were super comfortable. Now, they took a while to break in. It was a bit weird for you to start transitioning from an Ultra to a carbon.
Yeah.
What was the feeling there?
It was very strange to walk in. Like I did a warm-up walk, and I just felt like if anyone had seen me, I would have looked very strange. But then, running in them felt more comfortable. But
did they feel like a rocker?
It felt like more of a rocker than I was used to.
Sure.
And then I definitely noticed like my hips were working harder in those compared to the Ultras.
So I guess the only drawback there is that when you offload one tissue, you've got to put the load onto the next. You can't it doesn't disappear, unfortunately. So that is one of the drawbacks. But if you are, again, fit, healthy, we can deal with those sort of things, and the hip just has to adapt to that sort of force, which is it able to do. But at the moment you're alternating, aren't you, between the Ultras and the carbons, and I think that's a really good advice for someone who is changing their shoes, is to just wean them in and out. A lot of regular runners have 3 or 4 different pairs of shoes that they use for different purposes. So for now, I think we go with what's comfortable, and it's a bit of trial and error for now. So no, that's really cool. So we got what we're all tracking everything with, and let's start cracking down the programs. So this is going to be fun, and this is all an experiment at this stage. So I appreciate you two being a part of a little bit of an experiment, all for your benefit, hopefully. But what I've done first is got you both to do a Cooper's test. So this is a test of aerobic capacity. Essentially, we can assume your VO2 max from it. There's a calculation that puts your VO2 max. It's probably one of the better ways to assume your VO2 max that doesn't involve a big mask and go to uni and do it on a treadmill, which would give us great data. Because I know the new Garmin's do give you an estimate. Have you guys looked at your VO2 max estimates?
Yes.
Is it similar to what we did in the Cooper's test?
I don't actually know my Cooper's test.
So your Cooper's test, I haven't showed you the calculation. We can do it live on the program. This is going to be great.
I want to know. Probably not.
I mean, I could find mine on the Garmin. You know how good I am with this thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kay, can you find yours while I'm doing this?
I can try.
It is in performance status, so you can scroll down your feeds in there. We'll have an episode on how to use a Garmin watch.
A little tutorial episode.
So, Maddy, you ran 2.1.
I think it was 2.1.
2.1. Let's say 2.1. So it's a really strange calculation. It's 22.34 multiplied by your kilometers.
Oh.
I don't know why. And then minus 11.288.
Okay.
Sure. So, that'll spit us a number. Okay, so that's 33.
Okay.
At this stage.
Quite different from my Garmin.
What's your
Garmin
say?
says 45.
It's a bit different. What was yours?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I couldn't figure this out.
We'll do it later.
Okay.
I can put it in the show notes if we need to go back.
I think mine was low 30s. I think mine was like 30.
Yeah, but maybe. You got 1.98.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Okay, so you're very similar.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of 10 meters difference.
Yeah.
So you actually got the same VO2 max.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is great data because you both are starting at the same point, which is awesome. Now again, it's all an estimate, so we're not. We'll use the Garmin because if we use the same one over and over, we'll get a good result. So we're going to do the Cooper's test at the end of the program, but throughout we're going to be tracking the Garmin ones as well. And all this is stored and stuff anyway, so we can use the apps to track it. So Cooper's test for aerobic capacity, essentially how much oxygen you're actually utilising and how good you are at utilising that oxygen. And this is where the tricky part with that heart rate comes in, because as you spike the heart rate, you stop using the oxygen, or you stop using fat as a fuel, and then so you can't synthesize oxygen, so you start using the sugars, and then up the heart rate goes, and it's a horrible cycle. So we're going to try and get out of that by being a little bit more metabolically flexible. Now the program, Kay, we'll start with yours. We had a little bit of a issue with your zone 2, didn't we?
A little issue, yeah.
So I went for a run with you, and when we were doing our technique training, and I started like I did with you, Mads, and just told Kay to run slowly. And I was yelling, run slowly, just do it, it's not that hard. But Cayley was walking backwards, and her heart rate was still up. And I felt like a fool because I did exactly the same to you. And I said, no, Cayley, I'm going to go for a run with you to sort this out because you're doing it wrong. She wasn't doing it wrong. And I apologized profusely to her, but it was amazing. We were sitting exactly like you told me. You were running, having conversation with someone completely relaxed, not sweating, not breathing heavily, but your heart rate was 165 or 170.
And it won't budge.
Yeah, and it won't budge. So a couple of things potentially there. A, the heart rate data is wrong, and that's a potential as well. So that's why, Cayley, we got the chest strap for you. It's the most accurate we can actually get, other than putting an ECG on you, which you might have access to, so that'd be fun. But it's a really interesting thing to go. Even with a heart rate monitor on your chest, you still were hitting that 166-ish, 165s.
I think it was higher than that.
It was higher than that. I was giving you the benefit there. But with that zone 2, with your apparent zone 2, you were in a zone 2 feel. So we said yesterday with the how to start running is that your talk test is going to be more more relevant in terms of zone 2 tracking, not your heart rate data. So this is where if we didn't have heart rate, I'd keep you going at that pace and you were completely fine. You'll run at about 7 minute Ks, nothing super fast or super slow, but you were able to stick at 160-ish, late 160s. So I got so frustrated.
Because my technical zone 2 would be like 146.
Yes, that's correct. So 146 is the MAF number that we talked about last week, so the 180 minus your age. So 140 is trying you to stay under 146. Yeah, it's hard. Like we just couldn't do other than you getting out of bed and walking 3 meters.
And that's what I've been trying to do in previous, like when I was trying to run, that's why it was so frustrating.
Yeah, and this is where the individualized programming comes in handy because you can't just look online and go, because all the programs are run under your zone 2.
Yeah.
And for both of you, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because you tried and you failed and it doesn't work. Yeah. So we're gonna take it away from you. Yeah. And what we've called yours is an apparent zone 2. So Mads, yours is the same, essentially. Yours is slightly different for the gym, but we'll talk about that in a sec. So Cayley, I've got you at 165, 166 roughly at your apparent zone 2. That's where you found you can hit a really nice zone 2 style and talking, but the heart rate data we're going to kind of ignore at the moment. We're still tracking it, but we're ignoring it on the screen. And we've got a 12-week program for you. So 3 months. And we're doing it in cycles, essentially. So we've got 4-week cycles, each with varying levels. I'm not going to go into it week by week, but pretty much it's run walking. And that's what it is for kind of every week until we get to sort of week 10, 11, and 12 when we start actually doing some longer runs. Your goal for the program is to just run 50 minutes, I think we've got, non-stop, no time, no distance, efficiently as possible. So what we're doing for you is keeping your heart rate at 160-ish at that zone 2. And I've added in a little bit of a caveat to go, if I can get you at true zone 2 for at least a 20-minute stint for sort of two of those running sessions, then we'll be able to get a little bit of the actual zone 2 in there. And that's going to be your plan. So that's going to be a walk. unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is your 1:45. So you've done a couple of those.
Yep.
How does that feel when you're doing the walking?
It's a pretty quick walk.
Cool.
It's kind of hard to get to that speed to
Yep.
get it up. But yeah,
Yep.
as soon as I run, it's too high. So it's
Exactly.
a bit of a combo.
So our goal is to be able to get to the point where you are running
Yeah.
at that 146, at that true zone 2. And this is with, it's with metabolic training. We're training your metabolic system, not your running system, but we have to allow you to run to be able to do that.
Yeah.
This is the hard part. But then you got, Achilles issues, you got calf issues, foot issues.
Yeah.
So it was like, we could never do this. And we could get you in the pool and do swimming and you'd improve your VO2 max, no worries, but only when you're in the pool. So this is what I was talking about last week with you have to allow yourself to train for a style that allows you to increase. So you have to keep increasing and progressing. So this run walk scenario, our first week, I think you jogged for a minute and walked for 4.
Yeah.
And you did that 6 times.
Yeah.
So you ran for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But you probably ran 500 meters
Yeah,
in that time.
yeah.
Super slow. But that you did that 3 times and that was it. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
And you were starting from 0 essentially, weren't you? Yeah. So this is an important thing is Kay's a little bit different to Mads. Mads had already started some running before then, so you're a little bit more tissue tolerant even after the stressy, but we got you back to running from that. And Kay, you're starting from 0, so we had to pull you back a little bit more.
0 from physical, but also illness. I was pretty unwell at the time, so
absolutely
it was very much a baseline.
Yep. And then there was a couple of COVID bouts and pretty knocked you around for a fair bit. So we're sort of starting from literally 0, which is super exciting because we can see massive improvements throughout the training, and we're going to track all those things. What we're going to do is get you back in, obviously, in 6 weeks' time, hopefully, and see where we're tracking from that, and that'll be a really good little progression. But I think your first run, I'm just looking at the program now, your first run without a walk is in week 12 or something. Or week 11.
Lucky I like walking too.
Yeah, exactly. So but you can see the end point here is going, I've got to do the work now to be able to get the result of that running for 50 minutes without issue. And then we can progress another goal from there. It's not like that's the end point. That's almost the start of your running journey. So that's really exciting. And then we'll redo a Cooper's test to see any changes. Yeah, fantastic. Maddie, yours is very different.
Very different.
Which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So I love that. So you're starting from a slightly more tissue tolerant running base. So you've already started a few. You've always liked to do a park run, which is great.
To your much dismay.
No, I love it. What's your park run PB?
I got a new one on the weekend.
Did ya?
I did.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I got a new one on the weekend by accident.
Yep.
I'll
It always happens like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think
you fell into the run,
it was
didn't
an
you?
accident.
Yeah, you just tripped out of bed straight onto the start line.
I went to Fairy Meadow Beach and they were running,
And they were
so
there.
I thought I'd join them.
Exactly. Yeah, you thought it was just warm up for swimming. Yeah, cool.
I think it was 33 or 34 minute 5K.
Awesome. Good job. Yeah, really cool.
Which is big for me.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
No, that's really, really good. So again, that's something we can track.
Yeah.
We can say, okay, well, we can use parkrun. It's a standard 5K. If you do the same course every time, it's a really good reassessment tool. Now yours, we're going to break up into macro cycles of programming the gym because, Kay, you've got an EP, so you don't need that gym programming, and you've got your strengthening there as well. I'll add into yours, you're doing that aerobic training in the gym as well, aren't you?
Haven't started yet.
Okay.
But will.
That's an idea.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to do it before the run, you could do it at the gym for 20 minutes.
There.
Yeah. And just to get some zone 2 stuff, which we've done with you, Mads, as well.
Yeah.
So, Maddie, you just finished a 4-week gym cycle, is that right?
I did, yeah.
Perfect. So, what I've done for you, Mads, is break your cycle into 4-week blocks with a little deload week in between. And essentially you're going to have a gym cycle for 4 weeks and then a running cycle for 4 weeks. So you progress the gym in that month, and then the next month you're progressing the run while not progressing the gym. So you will drop down a little bit in the gym, and then you'll progress that in the next 4 weeks. So I'd have a nice graph to show you, but the whiteboard's upstairs. But this is where I want to be able to sort of discuss why, and I want to get... Yeah, Mads, you've always been into the gym, and you've always been, you started from a CrossFit background, which is, I think, put you in a really good stead, ironically, because it's probably why I was treating you in the first place.
Probably.
But it, it's a really good conjunct to running. I think strength training.
Yeah.
Bone density as well. You know, we know we've got some issues bone density wise because of the stress fracture we had and the energy availability and that sort of thing. So medically, we've got some reasons for that strength training, but that's going to really conjunct well with the run. So
Definitely.
what we've done is we've split the gym programming, and I've put the true aerobic zone. And you're not allowed. What's your aerobic heart rate?
I don't even know.
I think it's 140 or 150 or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've put you in a true aerobic zone for each of those gym sessions, and unfortunately it does increase the time in the gym, but then we've made the gym strengthening more efficient. So we've done supersets in the gym, which is great. So we've written all this out, but essentially we've done 20 minutes of zone 2, working that ski erg, treadmill, rower, stepper, whatever works, 5 minutes on each, just keeping that heart rate super low. It's super boring, and it's just cruisy. And then you get into your strength training. It's really important you don't do it the other way around, though, just as a disclaimer, because doing aerobic after strength actually takes away from the strength adaptation. So this is a little disclaimer for everyone out there. Now, you've also got some anaerobic sessions too, so some high intensities. Kay, we've got no real high intensity stuff for you because kind of everything's a high intensity. So we've got an anaerobic session, which is our 4 on, 4 off, isn't it? 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off. And in the gym cycles, we're doing that in the gym, and in the running cycles, we're doing that on the run, in running. And then we've got some high intensity flat outs for 10 seconds and then a long rest. So that's the gym cycle, and it's 5 days a week in the gym, but you're doing, I think we've got one run, don't we? Yeah, one run on day 5. Yeah. So that's going to be just maintaining the tissue tolerance to not allow you to not do anything for that month. Then we have a running cycle. So mainly split up into running. We've got some low intensities, and this is the low intensity run is your apparent zone 2. So you're sitting at that same spot that K is 160-ish, as long as you can talk. And not sweaty and not puffy, done. And then we've got 1 gym session, 2 gym sessions in there, don't we? Fantastic. And I've called it a Netflix session on your third. And that is just watch an episode of something and chill out on the bike for 20 minutes and just go super zen and just get that workload through. And that's actually after your high intensity day. So that 10 seconds flat out and then your minute and a half off. And you're going to repeat that. So
why didn't I get a Netflix day?
You can watch Netflix on your walk if you want. Don't fight.
Maybe put a movement therapy podcast in.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Maddie. See,
Okay.
I was waiting for that.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you've already listened to them all, just go back again.
That's exactly. Keep learning.
You can always learn more is my motto. So that's the program that I'll put up. And what I'll do is I'll actually put these as PDFs on the show notes underneath the episode, so you can have access to just seeing what the girls are doing. And we can go sort of based off the program. We're going to catch up in about 6 weeks, hopefully, and see how we go. And all of you got your tracking stuff, and hopefully we get to those goals. We've got a few different time frames, obviously 12 weeks versus 5 months. So after the 3 months, we're going to redo your goals and change the program up from there. But super exciting to start running and hopefully keep you running and keep you enjoying it.
Very practice.
Or start enjoying it. That park run, did you enjoy that?
I really did.
See?
Yeah. It was, I think, the first park run I've done where I didn't stop running.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Which interestingly came off the back of a gym load week.
Yep.
Gym load cycle.
A gym cycle. Yeah. So a strength cycle actually potentially helped that run.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love this. So I should say you're using your park run within these cycles as well, aren't you, as a low intensity day? Yeah, fantastic. So, and you're not doing run walk. You're just going straight running.
Straight running.
Perfect. Yep. Excellent. Cool. Well, girls, thank you so much for being part of the podcast and being a little guinea pig for me to program some average people, which is great. And we will check in with you in a few weeks' time. But everyone out there listening, thank you so much for staying with us through the running series. We'll catch up with the girls in a couple of weeks and see how they progress. As always, please share this podcast if you're enjoying the content, and let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Give us a comment on Spotify or reach out to us on our social media platforms. And we will be back again for another episode next week.